Classifying organisms. Classifying living things. How would you find your favorite fresh fruit or vegetable in the grocery store? You might look in the produce section, such as the one shown in Figure 7. Different kinds of peppers are displayed in one area. Citrus fruits such as orange, lemons, and grapefruits are stocked in another area. There are many different ways to organize the produce in a grocery store. In a similar way, they have made many different ideas about how to organize or classify living things. A Greek philosopher named Aristotle was one of the first people to classify organisms. Aristotle placed an organism into two large groups, plants and animals. He classified animals based on the presence of red blood, the animal's environment, and shape and sizes of the animal. He classified plants according to the structure and size of the plant, whether it was a plant, was a tree, a shrub, or an herb. Determining kingdoms. In the 17th, Carlos Linnaeus, a Swedish physician and botanist, classified organisms based on similar structures. Linnaeus placed all organisms into two main groups called kingdoms. Over the next 200 years, people learned more about organisms and discovered new organisms in 1969. American biologist Robert H. Whittaker proposed the 5-kingdom system for classifying organisms. His system included kingdoms Monera, Protista, Plantae, Fungi, and Animalia. Determining domains, the classification system of living things is still changing. The current classification method is called systematics. Systematics uses all the evidence that is known about organisms to classify them. The evidence includes an organism's cell, its habitat, the way an organism obtains food, and energy, structure, and function of its features, and the common ancestry of organisms. Systematics also includes molecular analysis, the study of molecules such as the DNA within organisms. Using systematics, scientists identified two distinct groups in kingdom Monera, bacteria, and archaea. This led to the development of another level of classification called domains. All organisms are now classified into one of 3 domains: bacteria, archaea, or eukarya, and then into one of the 6 kingdoms shown in Table 2. Domains in kingdoms. Table 2. Bacteria. Bacteria are simple unicellular organisms. Archaea are simple unicellular organisms that often live in extreme environments. Protista are unicellular and more complex than bacteria or archaea. Fungi are unicellular or multicellular and absorb food. Plantae, plants are multicellular and make their own food. Animalia, animals are multicellular and take in their food. Scientific names. Suggest you did not have a name. What would people call you? All organisms, just like people, have names. When Linnaeus grouped organisms into kingdoms, he also developed a system for naming organisms. This naming system, called binomial nomenclature, is the system we still use today. Binomial nomenclature. Linnaeus's naming system, binomial nomenclature, gives each organism a 2-word scientific name, such as Ursus acros for a brown bear. This 2-word scientific name is the name of an organism's species. A species is a group of organisms that have similar traits and are able to produce fertile offspring in binomial nomenclature. The first word is the organism genus. name, such as Ursus. A genus is a group of similar species. The second word might describe the organism's appearance or its behavior. How do species and genus relate to kingdoms and domains? Similar species are grouped into one genus, plural genera. Similar genera are grouped into families, then orders, classes, phyla, kingdom, and finally domains, as shown for the grizzly bear in Table 3. Table 3. Classification of the ground bear. Domain Eucria, about 4 to 10 million. Kingdom Animala, about 2 million. Phylum Chordata, about 5 to 50,000. Class Mammalia, about 5,000. Order Carnivora, about 270. Family Ursidae, 8. Genus Ursus, 4. Species Ursus arctos, 1. Uses of scientific names. When you talk about organisms, you might use names such as bird, tree, or mushroom. However, these are common names for a number of different species. Sometimes there are several common names for one organism. The animal in Table 3 on the previous page might be called a brown bear or a grizzly bear. It has only one scientific name, Uranus acrus. Other times, a common name might refer to several different types of organisms. For example, you might call both of the trees in Figure 8 pine trees. But these trees are two different species. How can you tell? Scientific names are important for many reasons. Each species has its own scientific name. Scientific names are the same worldwide. This makes communication about organisms more effective because everyone using the same name for the same species. Figure 8. These trees are two different species. Pinostrobus has the long needles and Tusca canadus has short needles. Classification tools. Suppose you go fishing and you catch a fish you don't recognize. How could you figure out what type of fish you have caught? There are several tools you can use to identify organisms. A dichotomous key. A dichotomous key is a series of descriptions arranged in pairs that leads the user to the identification of an unknown organism. The chosen description leads to either another pair of statements or the identification of the organism. Choices continue until the organism is identified. The dichotomous key, shown in Figure 9, identifies several species of fish. Figure 9. Dichotomous keys include a series of questions to identify organisms. Cladograms. A family tree shows the relationships among family members, including the common ancestors. Biologists use a similar diagram called cladogram. A cladogram is a branch diagram that shows the relations among organisms, including common ancestors. A cladogram, as shown in Figure 10, has a series of branches. Notice that each branch follows a new characteristic, for a characteristic is observed in a species to the right. For example, the salamander, lizard, hamster, and chimpanzee have lines, but the salmon doesn't. Therefore, they are more closely related to each other than they are to the salmon. Figure 10. A cladogram shows relationships among species. In the cladogram, salamanders are more closely related to lizards than they are to hamsters.